Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to the Brighton Film and Music Club, or just the Brighton Film Club, or just the Brighton Music Club. You can find us over on Instagram and online, and those links are in the comments below. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching. Just wanted to do a video which will go into a bit more depth, but I wanted to really marry up both the Brighton Film Club and the Brighton Music Club, which, as you've probably figured out at this point, are very much one and the same. Just sort of putting the YouTube videos under the title of the Brighton Music Club because talking about albums didn't really fit very well with a sort of film club as the title. But we might sort of stretch that out. But there's been obviously a huge amount of examples where film and music have combined in amazing ways, whether that be musicians actually acting in movies, for good or for ill, whether that be the other way around, so actors releasing music, whether that be, of course, something like a biopic or something just with an amazing soundtrack. So it's been an idea that we've had for a really, really long time, constantly making notes. It's something that obviously unites the two passions of ours, so we have collectively seen a lot of music-related movies and content, so it's something that we can talk about with some knowledge. So I just wanted to kind of give you the basics of what we're thinking of with this idea, and then we'll either stretch this out into something that's sort of written or something that's filmed, and we'll go into a bit more depth on each movie. But what I wanted to give you today is just some examples, some of the cream of the crop of these particular subgenres that we've created that fit within music and film. It's not an exhaustive list. There's, as you can imagine, loads and loads and loads of content out there. We have certainly not seen every single one, so any suggestions that you can give to us would be fantastic. If you agree or disagree with the movies that we're about to mention, then give us a comment down below as well. But just wanted to give you some starting points for movies and music that you might want to go and watch. Some of these will be available on a streaming site, some not, but if you have access to something like an Amazon Prime or Sky Cinema, quite often you can do a rent if you're, or if they're not sort of available to stream for free. So the first sort of category is just sort of a biopic, so a factual film based on a real musician or a real figure in the sort of music industry. In terms of the real classics, the real biggest ones, the sort of starting points if you want to get into this sort of genre or have not really seen these movies before, there's a few. I would certainly say Walk the Line, which is about Johnny Cash, is a very good place to start. Obviously very famous, probably the most famous example of a kind of music film. I would definitely recommend a film called Control, which is about Ian Curtis and Joy Division, based on the memoir of his widow, which is a fantastic film. Rocket Man, the recent Elton John biopic starring Taron Egerton, is amazing. We wrote in the review, which you can find on Instagram and online. Again, that'll be in the comments, about how that film really represents Elton John as a person. Obviously it's difficult with a biopic how to recreate a personality onto a screen where you're trying to tell a factual story, and it's something that we felt let down the Bohemian Rhapsody Queen biopic because it was a little bit sort of by the book and didn't have that entertainment aspect that the band do, whereas Rocket Man we feel injected a bit more personality into the story. That's a really good example of that. Something that's maybe not quite as seen is a film about the Runaways called The Runaways, the massively influential group which featured Joan Jett. Kristen Stewart is in that one as Joan Jett. Fantastic movie. Something that's a bit more widely seen is Straight Outta Compton, which is about NWA. I believe, as of the date of this video being posted, that's available on Netflix here in the UK. Amazing film if you've not gone and seen that before. Also we'd recommend Love and Mercy, which is about Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, starring Paul Dano, and then John Cusack sort of splits his life into younger and older. And the last one I'll mention in that particular category is 24 Hour Party People, which is about Tony Wilson and Factory Records with Steve Coogan. It's an amazing, very British, lots of good cameos in that, and just one of those sort of so strange it's true stories. Then you've got sort of movies that are either fictional biopics or movies where music specifically is the thrust of the plot line. For example, very celebrated movie, Almost Famous, by Cameron Crowe. It's based on his own experiences as a writer for Rolling Stone as a kid, but the band in that, Stillwater, is a fictional band. The story is fictional, but it's very much the thrust of the plot. That is one of our favourite films here collectively. Absolutely amazing. I put into this category the Beatles movies. The one I'd recommend above all is A Hard Day's Night. It is ostensibly a story of a day in the life of the Beatles, but it is scripted, it's fictional. Again, that's one of our favourite movies. It's an absolutely incredible film. I'd also put This Is Spinal Tap into this particular category. That needs no introduction. It's simply one of the funniest films of all time. Anyone that's not seen that needs to correct that immediately. I'd also put into this category Blinded by the Light, which is the recent film which is about sort of the music of Bruce Springsteen and how that can influence people, and that is available on Amazon Prime Video. Also Yesterday, another recent one, which is on Sky Cinema, and that's about if the Beatles' music was forgotten but one guy remembers it. It's a really interesting idea for a story. It comes highly recommended. As well as anything by John Carney, who is an amazing director. He has directed the films Once, Begin Again and Sing Street. All of them are essential viewing for music fans. I would recommend Sing Street above the other two as a first watch, which is about a group of school kids in sort of 80s Ireland who form a band influenced by sort of a lot of 80s music at the time, so sort of Duran Duran and The Cure. It is beautiful, it's got an amazing original soundtrack, and is absolutely, again, essential viewing. Other films that I put into this category, so sort of where music is the driver of the plot but they're not about real people. I would put The Blues Brothers, of course, in there. Again, a film that needs very little introduction, and of Quadrophenia as well, which is not actually about The Who, but follows the story of the Quadrophenia record. That actually is a Brighton based movie as well, so I'll give it not extra points, but certainly worth having a look at. And then the last couple I'll talk about that fit into this category, or I'd say fit into this category, are the recent version of A Star Is Born. It's obviously been done numerous times, but the recent one with Bradley Cooper directing and starring, and Lady Gaga, is amazing. Again, it was very widely seen. You've probably seen that already. If not, it's a beautiful story, again, about a fictional musician. I'm going to talk about La La Land, which I put in here as well. Yes, that is a musical in a more traditional sense, and I'm not really musicals. I'm not really counting that itself as a separate thing. But I'd say La La Land fits into this because it does concern more literally a musician in the film, Ryan Gosling's character, Sebastian, and is a bit more because the music in it is more of less musical in the sense that it's more real, it's more organic in the scenes. I would argue that it could fit into this category. And finally, I'll mention here the Pitch Perfect trilogy. The third one, unfortunately, isn't as strong as the first two, but the first two are absolutely fantastic. If you've written them off, don't go and give them a watch. Amazing music, where they don't sort of take the obvious choice in terms of the songs, but also married to a really, really interesting story, and a rare example where the sequel is equally as good as the first. And then the other category that I'll talk about today is films where music isn't the main thrust, but it is a sort of the key theme, if you will. So again, I'll give you some examples here. I would put in something like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where that is about obviously based on the graphic novel and is the love story of Scott Pilgrim and Ramona Flowers, but he is in a band. Music drives some of the key scenes. The soundtrack is amazing, so I'd certainly sort of lump that into this category. Also something like School of Rock, which again is basically about a musician, and obviously it's about teaching rock music to a young generation. Or something with just an amazing soundtrack like Trainspotting, which soundtrack again absolutely doesn't need any introduction. Something like Adventureland, or Oh Brother Where Art Thou, or Baby Driver, where the soundtrack is sort of as famous as the movie. And also something where music is the setting, so High Fidelity, or Empire Records, where they are set in record stores. Obviously music plays a key part, but isn't the main thrust of the actual plot. Then of course there's feature-length music documentaries that deserve its own video, and as I say, I will split all these categories into a separate video and talk about all the films, which are good, which are not as good. Documentary-wise, there's so many that we can talk about in that category. And of course you've got actually musicians who are, as I said at the beginning, who are in movies. People like David Bowie and Iggy Pop, who have starred in films, and again that could probably come with its own category. It's a pretty exhaustive list, from just simple cameo appearances, or musicians actually playing a key part, like Paul Simon and Annie Hall as an example. So yeah, hopefully that's a bit informative. I just wanted to give you the lowdown, and then we will talk more about those specific movies and categories in separate videos. But music and film very much goes hand in hand. As I said, they're the three categories I'd if we're accepting musicals, I'd have biopics, factual stories in the main about real musicians, fake biopics or films where music is the thrust of the actual plot itself, and also the third category being films where music is a key theme or the setting rather than the plot thrust. So there you go, it's our opinion on that, and we will talk about those more in future videos. If you've seen any of those or not, or love a film that I've not mentioned, please do mention it and put it in the comments, because we are trying to basically form an encyclopedic knowledge of those movies. It's not really something that's listed out there online, so we want to be the first to talk about that in its entirety. So there's a lot more viewing to do for us, so please do give us some tips and recommended movies. If you like the content, please do give us a subscribe here on YouTube, or particularly a follow over on Instagram at the Brighton Film Club. It means a lot to us and will really help grow this channel and blog. Really appreciate you viewing and listening to me. Keep safe, take care, speak to you all soon. Goodbye.